Hi, everyone, and welcome to your Lake Powell Deconstructed event. I'm your host, Kathy Alldredge, and I'm really excited to teach you all tonight. I love to teach people about things that I love. And this one's kind of a new one for me because I have been loving Lake Powell for decades, but yet haven't taught anything about it. Although I seem to be an expert in my circles. People are always texting me for my expense sheets, for my downloads, for my menus. And I thought, you know what, I think I just need to put it all together in one place and record it. And you guys get to be part of that. So thank you for coming tonight. And if you're watching this recorded, awesome. You are hopefully by now have downloaded the Lake Powell Deconstructed. And I wanted to say worksheet, but it ended up being a workbook. Right? This is over 20 pages of amazing content, and it's for you to keep. You'll have access to the downloads, the expense sheets, and menu plan that I do, and any updates, of course, that I do as well. So welcome again, and we need to jump in and get started because we have lots to cover. So again, just, certain things. Of course, many of my worksheets and workbooks will contain affiliate links, but those links are there to help you. I've negotiated percentages off with many of the vendors that I work with, and which is always nice to pass that on. So we're going to jump in to our content, and you'll get to know me a little bit more as I share this. As I was telling Tanya, who's on here, one of our participants tonight, I've spent over 42 years going to Lake Powell on a houseboat, right? I started as a little baby girl, and my parents owned into a houseboat in Bullfrog, and my husband's parents also owned into both of us on the buoys, by the way, also in Bullfrog. So we grew up going on houseboats. We dated going on his houseboat and my houseboat. And one of the things when we got married that we decided is that we would have a boat, not necessarily a houseboat, but a boat before he was 40 years old. And we that was our focus, and we dreamed towards it. And that in fact did happen. And then of course, the natural progression of wanting our kids to experience this as well as we invested in our own houseboat. So again, we've had the opportunity to go on houseboats for decades and decades. And there is a little bit of a culture around that, as many of you already know. And we will talk a little bit more about that tonight. But let me tell you who this training is not for. This is not for someone who has never even heard of Lake Powell, has never been, is dreaming one day of seeing it. This is for the person who is behind the scenes, the host, the planner, the person who is responsible for the fun overcoming the amount of work, right? And that's something, as I real quick, I'm going to stop share and just really talk to you about this. Lake Powell is a unique experience in that there is a lot of work involved, but the kind of work that is involved to create that Lake Powell experience, Chip Gaines of Chip and Joanne Gaines once said it best. He said, "I live every day like it's a Saturday." And everyone says, "What?" Right? He said, "When I grew up on a farm, we would get up at 5 a.m. and work our tails off double hard on Saturdays so that by mid-morning, we could go play the rest of the day." And that's really what what really encompasses a Lake Powell trip. There is a lot of planning. There is a lot of prep that goes into a successful trip. And it's really important as the host that you have fun too. Otherwise, you're not going to want to go to continuing year after year. Yes, of course, it's beautiful and it's an amazing experience for our children, but it's also important for us to have that great experience too. So let's jump through some of the contents. I'm going to kind of keep this out here to make sure, just for fun. And I want you to think about your own journey, right? Meaning, where's your houseboat? Did you grow up houseboating? How long does it take for you to drive to where your houseboat is? Okay, so we're going to just things to kind of think about in regards to that. So I'm going to share with you, I like to, when I invite guests on our houseboat, it's really nice to be able to kind of give them an overview. In fact, we go maybe 3 or 4 times a year, and each trip, sometimes it's family, sometimes it's friends, sometimes it's my children's friends. And we split the cost of those trips with these families, and we're very transparent up front. We love to present them with information so that they can make informed choices and decisions. Now, keep in mind, our trips are significantly cheaper when we're doing this combined, because we don't necessarily send all the costs of the houseboat off, but mostly just the trips, the expenses done on that trip. Okay, so this is an example of a welcome letter that that we are sending out, actually going this Sunday, right? We are, I kind of let people know where our slip is, how to get there if they've never been there before, what day we're leaving the slip, giving them a little bit of opportunity to get there, whether it's on a Sunday or on a Monday, and then the date we are returning to the slip. Now, in a perfect world, everybody would go with you all at once and get there at the same time, and they would leave with you all at once, right? But how many of you, by the raise of hands, right? That rarely happens, and that's okay. So those are the things that we have to prepare for and recognize that, okay, how do we split up the costs of trips like that, right? And what do we as the boat owners absorb, and what do we pass on, of course, to our guests? So first thing you want to know, and this is again part of our welcome letter, it's going to be 3 pages, is you want your guests to know what to expect. Okay, maybe they've never been on a houseboat, maybe they've never had that Lake Powell experience. You want to know that they have a room or they don't have a room. They're going to have a cubby, or they're going to have a box. They're going to have a shelf where they can put their things. Maybe you like to have people pack in bins. Maybe you like to have them pack in certain ways. Here we're just showing you mesh bags, where we've kind of discovered that it's really nice for people to put like their pillow and their sleeping bag in this to kind of keep it compartmentalized so that pillows don't get lost or blown overboard and things. And that way they can store them in the room or in one of our bins upstairs that has for room. So it's really important to let them know ahead of time about marine toilets. Would you agree? Right? If they don't know about marine toilets, you want to let them know before. You want to know when they get on the boat. You want to walk through every single person in their household and look them in the eyes and let them know, like ask them, hey, did you hear about the toilets? Can I show you how they work? Okay. And can I tell you what doesn't go in there? Because I don't know about you, but most 12-year-old girls I know have their AirPods in and aren't listening to anyone. And typically, I'm going to say, you know, generally that those are the girls who are actually maybe clogging those toilets. And you know how expensive it can be. So I love to say there is no plumber at sea, and nothing goes into the toilets except marine paper. Now, I'm not here to give you just a general teaching, right? I want to teach you just bits and bits of what I've discovered. Okay. I actually hate RV toilet paper, but I found one brand that I really like and I can buy it on Amazon. And one of the things you're going to get at the end of this training is my Amazon shopping list. Okay. I have it already linked in there. It's going to be a lot of fun. You can go there and you can actually shop my favorites. Okay. And so Scott RV toilet paper is the one that I actually like the best. And you'll be able to see that link in just a moment. So one of the things that it's important for you to know is how much, let's see, I want to make sure, I want to make sure that that's someone who's not trying to jump into our training. So sorry, I didn't mean to look at our phone. Now, everybody wants to know how much it costs. So if you're renting a houseboat, your costs are going to be much more expensive, right? I think they're like $10,000 a week when you're renting a houseboat. And if you send those costs off between families, it's going to be a little bit different than my welcome letter here. Okay. So one of the things that we do, of course, is we pay our annual fee to our houseboat and we absorb that, but we pass on some of the other expenses. Okay. So we like to let our guests know that they can estimate anywhere around $5,000 to $6,000 total for the week. Plus the cost of food. And that is divided out between all the guests that we and families that are going to be on the houseboat, okay? And so it's really important to know, okay, what are the things that make the cost of the trip go up and so forth? And mostly it's just the gas. We've gotten the food thing down pretty good, and we can actually even divide out some of that food where we're not even, you know, picking up everything at the store, okay? Now, one of the things that I really love to say, and I interesting is, oh, This one here. Okay. It says eating a sea, but it's supposed to be more about packing and food. So we will jump in through some of this really quickly. One of the things we like to do, and again, this is from our welcome letter, is that we like to assign each guest. So our houseboat has 5 rooms, our room, our queen room, and then it has 4 other cuddies. So usually we try to just keep it to 5 families, but some of those families can have 6 kids. Some of them could have 1 kid, right? And so it's going to be a little bit different. But one of the things that we've learned to do is that we assign 1 dinner per family during the time we're there. And how I like to present that is say, I have a set menu that I love to use, but if you have something that you love to make and your kids love, and what we can, tell me what that is, and let me see how it'll fit into our menu. Because I don't know about you, but I would hate to be like assigned something of a food that I wouldn't even eat, okay? We don't eat fish because we have a ton of allergies. We have a ton of allergies in my family. And so that's another thing. If you're inviting guests and they have a peanut allergy, that's super important that you're not packing peanut M&Ms. Okay, so these are things that you need to know ahead of time and make sure that you can even poll your guests. What are their favorite drinks, right? And so forth. Now with water, okay, if your boat has an osmosis system, awesome, ours does as well, but we always love to have some additional water. And one of the things that we've discovered is that we can freeze those drinks, okay, in the freezer and use them as ice on the way down. And it really helps to keep the water in the coolers cold, which is really cool. Let me go ahead and just admit someone into our room. Awesome. Okay. If you are joining us a little bit late, don't worry. You're going to get the recording afterwards. You've gotten the workbook. We're just piecing through it, but I just want to make sure, as I said at the beginning of this is more of a course than a class, as we have 20 plus pages to go through, but you're going to be able to print this out in color, right, and keep it. And there's a ton of information and QR codes for you to kind of cycle through. Now, something that, and I love this, if you want to put this in the chat, you guys, how many of you have rules on your houseboats or on your speedboats around red and blue drinks? Okay. One of the things that one of my friends, one of our friends, just for fun, when we were taking him out boating, came up with like a bag of Cheetos, like a red like punch, and was standing at the dock, and my husband wouldn't even pick him up. It was the funniest thing ever, right? But there's a reason for that, especially if you have white covers or things like that as well. You want to make sure that those things that stain are off the boat. Okay, so this is, again, the last page of our welcome letter. I can share this Canva template with you if you'd like. I can go ahead and put that in the Dropbox or in the Google Drive file that I've given you so that you can edit this for yourself, right? And it's kind of fun to show up in this regards. Like, you know what you're doing, you're inviting someone to this event, and by showing up with this beautiful handout, this beautiful welcome letter, they are already so excited about the experience that they're going to have. Now, some fun things here on the packing list, and I apologize. How is that? Is it pretty? Can you guys see it pretty well? I hope so. One of the things that I want to recognize that it's important to let your guests know if they need to bring their own life jacket, right? How many of you have had guests come on the boat and they just have assumed that there's going to be life jackets for them, and they're maybe a double XL or a triple XL, and you're like, we don't have a life jacket to fit you. So not only are our houseboats supposed to have enough life jackets for everybody on the vessel, okay, and whether you have the Mae West underneath or not, it's a great thing to invest in, especially if your friend has a boat, okay? So that's always kind of a fun thing to share. Now, I always tell people to pack light. Rollerboards are not welcome on the houseboat, okay? We had someone coming in from Seattle, and I said, you know what? You might want to get one of those little dollies, but it's better to have, you know, duffel bags. If your cabins work for rollerboards, awesome, okay? Now, we'll just kind of jump on. I know some of these things you're just going to have to read on your own. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about how this training came about. Okay, so I'm an online success coach. I actually teach classes in regards to topics that I feel are that bring light to people, that inspire people, that help people. And I absolutely shine when I get to help people learn something new. And I was at the gym about a month and a half ago, and this gentleman who'd moved here from Chicago, I was talking with another man in my class about, oh, he had a houseboat and so forth. And does he go to Bullfrog? Does he go to Waweep? Right? That's what you do. And this man from Chicago said, okay, someone let me in, right? What is with this Lake Powell? I hear Lake Powell, but I have no idea what it means. And it occurred to me, right, that Lake Powell is a tradition. It's a culture, right? Is this a culture that was passed down to you? Did you go to the lake with your grandparents, with your parents, right? And why are we willing, okay, to take 6, 8, 10-hour drives to go to this lake? Okay. And I love it that it's like, you know, this is a vacation where we tell stories of our near-death experiences on the lake to our kids. And, you know, and our kids are wondering if we nearly died. Why are we still doing this? Okay. But I remember as a kid, having the opportunity to travel to many different places. And when people would ask me what was my favorite place to go, it was Lake Powell. And I'm watching the same thing happen to my kids, right? As we have this amazing privileged generation, and with all the opportunity they have to go and see, okay, that Lake Powell can be that experience that they remember most, right? So even with perfect planning, no one can predict a broken generator, right? Or the unexpected windstorm, or like our last trip, my husband coming back in the boat with everybody on it surfing and going, the houseboat is on fire, right? As the grill was like a huge giant grease fire in the back of our grill. And my son had it all under control, right? But these are memories that teach our children, you know, problem solving skills and grit. And I know you have your stories too, okay? But like our American ancestors, right? That told stories by the fireside. Are you sharing the stories of your youth at Lake Powell? Are you writing down the stories that you're experiencing so that your kids can be telling their kids on that 6-hour drive? So one of the things we love about Lake Powell is it forces our kids to get into nature. And so this is one that we're going to talk about in just a moment of how do we get our kids to unplug? How do we get ourselves to unplug, right? And what does that look like, and how can we get creative? So here's just a fun idea. And those of you who have not used QR codes before, can I show you how? Okay, you just take your phone, you turn it to the camera. You don't have to have a special app, and you can scan these little QR codes. Okay, let me make sure that this little box is gone. Oops. This little QR code allows you to just view it in a different way, right? Or actually go to that website. Sorry, my little presentation here got a little bit, my viewing tools are different. I want to go back to the page display. I like that one. So I am on here. I just put something fun on here. It's really important to know how to tie a rope and to know how to tie ropes when you're boating. So the top QR is my list. Remember I was telling you about my Amazon list. This cute little knot tying thing was great for the car, and I wanted to share it on with you. And then down below is a video showing you like 4 knots done by West Marine. It's a really great short little video. Here's something great you guys can do on this 6-hour drive down to Waweep or Bullfrog, wherever you end up heading out, okay? Let's go through, and I love these 10 simple boating tips. I pulled the Lake Powell Facebook group on what are some of your pet peeves, and do any of you share some of these pet peeves of other boaters on the lake? And if I've forgotten something, feel free to type it into the chat, okay? So here are some things that maybe you don't know that are important to know about the culture of boating, okay? What does wakeless mean? When you see those buoys that say wakeless, that means no waves. It's one of my husband's biggest pet peeves. I swear he's like cussing at boaters and yelling at them across the waves, okay? Early glass means there's no action all on the water. It's when my boys and girls, my youngers or my teenagers get up at like 6 a.m. to go out there and get the best water skiing glass. This is not for tubers. This is not a time to go tubing. I don't know who would even consider that. Okay. Glass is for the skiers and the wakeboarders, and it's not for someone to go out and learn how to ski. Okay. Some other ones on here is always watch out for the rocks and the sandbars. Especially right now, as the water levels are low, everyone's like, oh my gosh, is there so many things exposed, right? Maybe this has happened to you. There is always something exposed in the water of Lake Powell. You always have to be watching out for rocks and sandbars, always, okay? So one of the things that we'd love to do is, what would Rick do? And I'll talk to you a little bit more about Rick. He's my brother. He is someone who has inspired me to teach this and to continue going to Lake Powell. And my brother Rick would have stopped to help everyone. Okay, so that last one that says, always help out a boat needing rescue. Okay, my brother Rick and my other brothers literally like took wave runners down after a rainstorm and went out searching for people who needed help. And one year, a big rainstorm had come and pushed this small boat who was camping at the back of this canyon up onto the shore. And my brothers came and all of them lifted that boat, right? These people, this was like a day after, they didn't have any drinking water, right? Everything had been destroyed, lifted that boat back to the water. So these are the things that make Lake Powell historic, right? So many of you might agree with this statement that says Lake Powell is calling and I must go, right? How many of us feel that? We do, right? So I'm going to make sure that we can kind of get this going on here. Let me real quick make sure that I've got, you guys can see this and that we are looking at this together. Awesome. I just always want to make sure that people can view the presentation, right? So please feel free, if there's any insight that you have to get, as we are recording this, to make sure that you share with us via chat, or of course, make mention on my Instagram account and let me know what you loved about this training. So there is a great reason to unplug when you go to Lake Powell. And I love that all of us will tend to say, oh, it's for the teenagers, right? They need to unplug. But the reality is it's not just the teenagers, okay? It's all of us. It's all of us who need to be off social media. It's all of us who who just need to get away, right? Maybe it's a book, maybe it's a magazine, maybe it's something that you need to just check out, okay? And one of the owners last month asked of our houseboat, said, hey, how do you guys feel about if we put Wi-Fi on the boat? Okay, because I guess he likes to watch sports, and particularly one that came up was the Jazz game. And I said, I have no interest, right? I have no interest, right? So if you do, we're gonna probably try to keep it hidden from the teenagers, okay? Because we like to park our houseboat where there is no cell phone reception, and it makes the kids and the adults look outside themselves, right? That gives you a chance to play a card game or a board game with the littles. It allows the 5th grader and the 12th grader to go out on the jet ski together, right? And I have shared with you some of our very favorite games at Lake Powell, Cover Your Assets, Monopoly Dill, Mexican Train Dominoes, Scum, which is a card game, and of course, Code Names. And I have put these links to these games, if you haven't heard of any of these, in the Amazon links in my favorites that you'll see shortly. Now, what's really important, and I love when people are like, well, what do you guys do in Lake Powell? And somehow people think that, well, you've got the water and boating and skiing. What else would you want, right? Believe it or not, it's really important to create an atmosphere when there's downtime. We don't love to watch movies all the time in Lake Powell. Sometimes we'll put a projector on the very top, and my kids have figured out how to play Switch late at night or whatever. And so there are times that things like that have happened, but we really I wanted to give you some of my very favorite ways that our kids, and we have set up for our kids to entertain themselves, okay? Hair braiding lines, lotion applying lines, like those little massage lines that the kids used to do. Our kids love to do the ankle and bracelet making. I buy string kits, and it's in my Amazon cart. Some of the best ones I think that are out there, and they make bracelets for each other, for boyfriend and girlfriends that aren't on the trip, you know, and we all sorts of assorted colors. And you will see as we have wooden tables, like little things, you know, someone's working on, and then they run, go jump in the lake, and it comes back in. Now, our kids have done skits very similar to, camps or youth camps that you've attended before. And last year, the kids pretended to be us. And this year, we're thinking about pretending to be them, right? And these are the memories. These are the things you remember. Lip syncing contests. Name that tune. If you do name that tune, it's fun to do from different generations, but then also always remember to download those songs prior to the trip, because you're not going to be able to grab them from your phone afterwards. Now, here you can see my kids. This is from our trip 6 weeks ago. This is the king of the mountain, and they spent hours out there trying to push and shove each other off this mat, okay? Those are the things that create the memories. Now, high, low, ready, go is a tradition of ours that I would love to share with you. We like to gather, you know, everyone in kind of right before everyone, or some people have started to brush their teeth, and maybe the little ones are kind of ready to go down and the older ones are kind of ramping up. We like to bring everyone into the front part of our houseboat. We do a little game called high, low, ready, go. And we take time to touch everyone in the room and allow them to say the high of the day and then the low of the day. And this has been a really bonding experience and almost a spiritual experience for people to recap their day. And so how that works is, if I go first, I can say, you know, my high of the day was that I got up water skiing, right? Or that I got to watch my baby get up water skiing. And my low of the day is that I got sunburned. Okay. And then high, low, ready, go, Jane, right? And I get to tag someone else, and then she gets to go. And the adults do this and the kids do this, and it really helps in a place where everyone's always running, bring everyone together back in one more time, okay? Now, here are some other ideas. We've done American Ninja Warriors, where we've done courses out on the rocks, Skittles bingos, and we've done bingo where you have really, really good prizes. I mean, people get so serious about this, okay? Night surfing with glow sticks on, and fashion show. It's sometimes kind of fun to bring, and you as the host could bring buckets of old clothing and allow them to allow the youth to do a fashion show. Okay, so now let's talk about food, because I know that's the real reason, right? That's the real reason you guys all joined in on this, was to get some new fresh ideas on your menu, right? Okay, so if you look here, you're going to see CSE. A lot of my menu and items come from my favorite cookbooks. And one of those is a menu plan or meal plan that I follow called Clean Simple Eats. It's kind of my macro-based healthy nutrition. And I've worked it out with them that anyone who scans that code, it'll take you directly to their website. You can get their hard cookbooks and or their products for 10% off with that code. So you're welcome. Okay, but you'll see in a moment some of these recipes in our workbook. Okay, so when we eat on the houseboat, it's, to me, eating is part of that experience of Lake Powell. We like to eat well, but there's a lot of prepping and freezing that happens prior to coming that makes it really easy on us. Okay, I like to divide out that menu for grocery shopping, all the way down to like someone's getting all the paper goods. You know, in your head, you're thinking, why do I have multiple people going to Costco? I can just grab it all and I can do it. I'm telling you now, you've got to get over that. Okay, allow people to help out. It helps them have like what I call a buy-in to that trip. It helps them feel like they're actually not just a guest, that they're part of this. Okay, so we talked about assigning each family a dinner. And another idea that works is maybe assigning a family per day on, hey, you know what, your family's in charge of cleanup and garbage. dishes today. Okay, so that's another fun way that you can make sure that the load of the work is actually shared as well. So a lot of times that works really well on the day that that family has dinner, right? That you're like, hey, to the Joneses, you guys are in charge of dinner tonight, just to give you a heads up. That also puts you in charge of making sure that, you know, everything's set up for breakfast and lunch, and things get put away in the garbage too. Okay. Now, if your houseboat has 2 kitchen prep areas, like on a second floor, on a lower floor, I highly suggest that you use that second area. We don't even heat up the lower kitchen just because it heats up the boat. We do not ever use the oven, okay? Especially this year when we're looking at 110 type degree weather. I do not want to heat up in any way that main cabin, okay? So those are some things that help us. I wanted to show you, these are some of the things on my menu right here. You've got the protein shakes. This is our Southwest pasta salad. And if you haven't experienced protein balls yet, these are awesome, 100 calorie, full of protein, little bites that are just like little cookies, little healthy cookies. Now, one thing I want to make sure that you know is that we actually choose to use paper goods, okay, over washing so many dishes, but I know many families like to use the dishes in the cupboards, right? And it's kind of personal preference. I do believe in really teaching the youth and people who come aboard how to compact garbage. I had opportunity to grow up in Europe several times through my life, and remember like having like the size of garbage can I roll out to the curb each week. That was the size of garbage can for the community that we were in that summer. And people will take their garbage and fold it up almost like origami. And if you teach people to do that, it also helps them not to use so many things instead of grabbing 3 plates during that meal because they don't know where they put those. And they're a little bit more conscious of that because especially when you're camping a little bit far away, and like this year when we don't have dangling rope, we don't have height, we don't have other hauls crossings where we can go fill up our boats. It's a really big deal when we have to haul garbage back even midweek, right? So these are things that we kind of have to think about. I'm going to try to put this in a better zoom here so we can see this better. Is that better to see? I don't know why it didn't let me show you. Read mode. There we go. I like that better. Okay, so prepping our food. Okay, I love, this is kind of fun with the packing thing. So it is always funny when like a man, and I'm going to say that totally candidly, is like, all you need is a swimsuit, right? Right. Yeah, right. Okay. We're going to talk about the art of packing, and people will love to give you advice in this area. Okay. And I just kind of made me think of when I was putting this together. Have you ever looked at like a young mother right now and looked at their stroller and looked how fancy it is and how the kids like suspended in the air? And I'm like, oh my gosh, what would have it been like if I had a stroller like that when I was a kid? Right? So these trips, like what we did 20 years ago, what we did 30 years ago is an entirely different trip of what we're doing today. Okay. I'm going to give you a few tips that I consider wins, and hopefully they'll help you. Right. And if you love to order off Amazon, I'm going to show you where you can get these things and so forth. And we'll kind of jump through that depending on what time we have. And we're already, oh my goodness, 40 minutes in, and this is so exciting. We haven't even jumped to my menu, but you're going to have time to peruse that and kind of make that your own. I like to pack in reusable insulated bags, the kind that have metal inside. I noticed at Harmon's, if you guys are here in the Utah area, that you could get like 6 of them for $24 or like $30 or something right now. And they all fold up into each other. And the reason I like to pack that way, even if it's bread or dry goods, when we're transporting things down there and we're pulling our boat usually, and that's where our food is sitting in, it gets hot in there. Our cover is black, it gets hot in there. I really like to insulate as much as I can. And then I put towels. You can see here, these are the purple bags in this photo here that I transport our things. And you can see I have the chips here. I do cereal oftentimes in bags because it's kind of funny. The kids, we don't usually do bags through the year. And so it's become kind of like a Lake Powell special tradition that we have cereal bags, right? And they transport way better. And I don't have to break down cardboard. It's just a simple bag to throw away. These are IKEA type bags that I put in our sheets, our towels and things as well, because when I get on the boat, this can all get stored inside of one bag. I don't have coolers. I don't have buckets, right? If I do use buckets, I use the collapsible buckets, and you'll see those in my shopping cart and my Amazon shopping cart that stacked with each other. And then I love to be able to use those for like bread and things in the cabinets, the collapsible totes. Now, one word of advice is when you get there to make sure that you pack the refrigerator slowly. Don't be so fast to get everything out of your cooler. Kind of do it in waves, because some of these refrigerators, when you pack them full right away, it's really hard for them to cool everything down, and you might have a lag time. So that's just something we've discovered with refrigerators in general, with houseboats, different houseboats that we've been on. Now I'm going to go ahead and see if I can change my, so we can go back to the page view, and we can look at my menu. You guys, finally, right? I know you guys have been waiting so patiently. Let me get back to, we'll go to actual size here. So I love good food, and I'm not going to lie that a lot of times we do copycats of our favorite restaurants. And a lot of times we buy from those favorite restaurants, Cafe Rio being one of them. You can go to Cafe Rio or Costa Vida and ask to pre-purchase their meat. They bag them, they seal them, and then we deep freeze them. We do this with their cilantro lime rice. We do this with their tomatillo ranch. We do this with their meats, okay? Now we don't do this with the tortillas. We buy the ones that are pre-made that you kind of have to scale it yourself. So for you Epicureans, this is a sample of our menu that we're actually taking this week. I've given you 7 days on the menu, though we're only staying 5. Okay, I gave you a few extras. So we do paninis and wraps. There are a few appliances that I always take on my Lake Powell trip, and a panini grill is one of them. I have my favorite one in my Amazon shopping cart. You'll get that in just a moment, okay? Why that's nice is when your bread starts to dry out, okay, then you get to panini it and it stays fresh, okay? You put a little butter, grilled, right? Super simple, no one gets burned. Most of the lunches we do are deli sandwiches, and then we do leftovers from the night before. That way we're not throwing out a lot of food, we're just using it again the next day. We like to have fun breakfast, but not every morning. Usually by the end, if you've had a big breakfast every day, you're kind of a little bit overdone as it is. We always do crepes for one of the breakfasts. It's a tradition. My family is from Finland, and we call them Finnish pancakes. Maybe you call them something different. We have competitions, right, between the brothers. One of my very favorite breakfasts is a simple breakfast parfait. And you'll see the things that I like to order for that. Vanilla yogurt, frozen berries, some granola, and then the protein smoothies. And I've actually provided many of the recipes that I use for our protein smoothies that taste amazing. Most of them from Erica Peterson's Clean Simple Eats cookbooks. Now, carne asada, most of my menu you can purchase at Costco. Okay, there are many things that make it easy, and I always suggest that you buy in bulk when you can. The carne asada is amazing from Costco. Anyone else agree with that? It does take a little finesse to grill, and it does really heat up on your grill. But something about that carne asada at Lake Powell, doesn't all food taste better at Lake Powell? Yeah. It absolutely does. Now, we love to do the dogs and burgers, but our dogs and burgers, we're doing sweet potato fries in the air fryer. Another appliance, okay, that I always bring is an air fryer, because I can fry things at a really high temperature at 400 degrees and not heat up things around it, okay? Now, word for the wise, make sure you know your generator power. Do not plug things like an air fryer in or a panini when you're just off the inverter. Always make sure that you or yourself or the captain turns on that generator when you are running at lunchtime and dinner, okay? Just something that's important to know. Now we do Cafe Rio sweet pork salads, a chicken rumby rice bowl with the coconut and red bean. And these are the things, just some of the things that we have on my dinner menu. Now, one thing that I really love to do, of course, is have a few homemade desserts that are pre-made before. Yes, can I buy Chips Ahoy? Yes, can I buy Rice Krispie treats already packaged? Yeah, but they're not as good, right, as homemade cookies and Rice Krispie treats with the M&Ms sprinkled in it, and you know it. So if you have a really awesome brownie that your family loves, this is a great time to make sure that that's made before and transported down with you. Now, one of the things we love, oh, you guys, you ready? Take out your phones. Okay, you can scan that right now. If you scan that thing at the bottom, that's going to take us right to our menu plan. So I'm going to jump right there because we've got to jump into this because this is the real reason you all came. We got to jump into this. Okay, now I've set up the weekly menu plan in different ways, and I'm going to show you in my screenshot here a little bit. You can look at this on your computer, and you can actually pull this up on your phone, and you can check the boxes. And I'll show you in just a moment. So yes, you were looking at the pretty ideas of things that we have, but this, okay, this is the real meat of this program, and I hope many of you are excited. Just tap something in the chat and tell me, yes, I'm excited to find this. So a lot of these things here, of course, as you put your mouse over it, you are going to be able to see the recipe. Okay, so for instance, the Southwest pasta salad and the grilled cheese sandwiches, you can click here, and this is one of the recipes from Our Best Bites. I do love Our Best Bites, a few other cookbooks that I really love, and you can see here, there's the recipe for it, okay? Things that I'm giving you recipes for, especially on that first day, I always pre-make my salad, my pasta salad. It's kind of like we have a pasta salad that day that everyone's getting in on the boat because people are getting it at different times. I don't have to keep it hot. I just have to keep it cold. I prep everything in there. I pre-make the pasta because I don't know what it is. And I'm sure some of you who understand the scientific part of this know that it takes water a really long time to boil down in Lake Powell. And so like if I'm doing a pasta, I always will pre-cook it and put it in a Ziploc and then take it down with me. And things like fresh basil and certain things that add a little finesse to your recipe really go a long way in Lake Powell. Okay, so that's just one of those that we're talking about. Let's peek through this just like I was going to be peeking through with my sisters, like in tomorrow, right? This time we're going to Lake Powell with my family. And so we've divided up the dinners. And I hope you guys can see. Can you see my screen? I always want to make sure you're seeing this, okay? I'll zoom in a little bit here so you can see a little bit better. Let's just jump through our breakfast. What do meals and schedules kind of look like on a houseboat? So usually the day that we get there, we usually get there a day before. I put some ideas for breakfast on the road. We traveled down from Salt Lake City, so we always stop at the Costa Vida in Fillmore. And can I let you on a secret? If you order on the app before you get there, when you get there and there's a big giant line out the door, your food is always ready. Okay, so that's just a secret with that Costa Vida in Fillmore. And then when we get there, those people who are on the boat that first night, we usually just send someone to Paige. And if you've not been to the birdhouse, oh my goodness, tell me you've been to the birdhouse. This is a great place for fried chicken. And especially this year when these local restaurants are in possible peril, go shop in Paige. Go put your money into these local restaurants, okay? So that is just before you leave this slip, get out there and support the community. And I know there's also really great restaurants for Mexican and things such as well, but Birdhouse is kind of a little tradition for us. Now, again, I gave you 7 days worth of menu, though we're not gonna be there that long. So breakfast parfaits are usually when we leave the slip, right? We're having breakfast parfaits because why? There's little boats going here, this one's there, and this and there. You know, we're throwing out bars, we're throwing out chocolate premier proteins just to make sure people are fed. Now, when we are camped the next morning, we have a nice finished pancakes or crepes. And if you look here, you're going to see some of these things have smoothies, right? We have a really health conscious group that is not going to have a sugary pancake, right? Or is not going to have we've got vegans who aren't going to have egg McMuffins. So we make sure that we always have a nice blend tech or smoothie maker on there, and protein powders and frozen berries and frozen bananas. And can I tell you, bring the bananas down in their pills, peel them right before they go brown, put them in a Ziploc and throw them in the freezer when you're down there. Don't try to take your bananas frozen down in the coolers because they just end up mushy. That's just something I've learned with bananas. Now, buttermilk pancakes. This is in our best bites. Can I give you a hack for awesome buttermilk pancakes? You ready? The Krusties mix from Costco. Instead of putting water in there, put like either dried milk, okay, in water consistency, or put milk and then add vanilla. And it's like you've made this gourmet buttermilk pancake. You're welcome, right? Now, and we'll go through some of the protein shakes too. Now, the last day we're there, before we head back to the slip, I always like to French toast the bread that we have left, okay? And so it is nice to have a little bit of extra eggs. Something to learn about eggs is you can crack eggs and transport them. Like I would put them in maybe like a used apple juice plastic container, okay, and maybe a little bit of milk, but you can literally, you know, transport those eggs cracked, freeze it, and transport it, okay? So that's something. And also about milk. Did you know you could freeze milk too? Yeah, I mean, as long as it's not like close to expiring, grab those gallons. You can even pour a little bit out, put the lid back on so they don't burst in those things, and put them in the freezer. And then in a way, you've got like you put that in a cooler, you've got like a frozen jug of milk that's going to help keep everything else cool. Now, for our freezer items, I usually take a Yeti down there because I know it will stay absolutely cold the whole way down. Okay. So I know some people have done dry ice and things before. Now, do you want me to run through these? Let's go through this lunch real quick, because I think sometimes you have to, like, my ideas aren't necessarily coming through. We mostly do deli cut sandwiches, but again, we kind of spill in a few awesome lunches. Since we have 5 people on the boat, instead of having everyone do a dinner, because we're going down with 2 different houseboats, one of my brothers is actually going to do his grilled sweet potato wraps for lunch, and you're going to love these recipes. Okay. Now I am going to show you, we're not going to keep going through here because you're going to see these recipes are all here, but I want to also show you on this page too. Can you see down at the bottom of my screen where it says recipes and ingredients? Okay. I have broken these down. You are welcome. Items that are available at Costco. Okay. Those are in red. How many times do you like make a Costco list and a grocery list, right? Now, this is kind of estimating about 20 people, just kind of putting it out there, but you can change that quantity based upon your trip. Now, I've tried to put peas next to things that you might consider making or prepping prior to the trip. And then these are my protein shakes that I love to make from Clean Simple Eats. This peanut butter cookie shake is one of my absolute favorites. It's just something that is perfectly 300 calories in the morning and is just delightful. Now, another thing though, of course, is the case of Premier Proteins from Costco. And those come in really handy for our early morning water skiers and surfers. They can grab a Premier Protein and have a little something while they're out there, you know, the 45 minutes to an hour, especially of people who are breakfast people. My husband, not one of them. Okay. Now, if you have any questions about how I've set this up, please let me know. Okay. I've also actually got in here and put the seasonings that I always make sure that we have. Did you know you can buy Chick-fil-A sauce now? Yep. I get it from Chick-fil-A or Winco, and we love that. That's a sauce that like makes everybody happy with the kids. We'll typically bring like a sugar-free and then also a normal barbecue sauce. My go-tos are Everything Bagel seasoning, Kinder's buttery seasoning. You can get that at Costco. And then chili lime seasoning. That's another one of my favorites, like from Trader Joe's. Okay. So we have to bring mayo and Miracle Whip because we're that kind of family. Like this sister likes Miracle Whip, that one likes mayo, and let everyone make their own tuna fish. Just kidding. Okay. So I hope the junkyard fries, sweet potato wraps. These are just some fun ideas. I did want to point out that we love soda on our trips. I know many people don't. but here's how to make a dirty Diet Coke. And here is, to bring those syrups. Oh, did you have something fun to share? I heard someone kind of unmuting themselves. Awesome. Do you guys have any questions about this spreadsheet while we're peeking at this? Okay, I've given you a shopping list to create your own if you want to dive in and you've created your own menu. What's really great is you have viewing access to these. I always suggest that you save them to your own drive, and that way you can edit it, and it's not going to edit mine. So don't worry about that. If you want to track your spending of everything that you've spent for the trip, here's a budget sheet that I've included for you as well. Okay. Woo. Okay. I'm laughing because I think that I could have gotten through this content a lot faster. And I'm laughing because you guys, I'm seriously only doing like 30% of what I wanted to teach you. And one of my girlfriends who's also a coach is like, oh, you can't cover that in an hour, girl. You're trying to do a course, knock it off. Okay. So I want to jump back into this one here, and I'm going to share with you just a few more things before we close up tonight. Now, one of the things that I love to share, a secret, is that there is a difference between a medical first aid kit and what I call the host first aid kit. And I learned this years and years ago as many people, I'm the one that is always prepared. Okay. And I used to be the aunt that went on the trip, right? Aunt Kathy. And I'd have my cute little nieces come up to me and be like, I'm sunburned. Aunt Kat, do you have something for sunburns? Or my tummy is upset, or my allergies are acting up, right? Or I got bit by a bug, or I've got that Lake Powell itch, and right? And cuts and bruises. And one of the things that happened on our trip, right, is my oldest son had the anchor shovel and got his little brother right here, okay, on the top of his eye. And we probably should have gone into, an ER if we had been in a normal situation, but we were like out in the middle of the lake, miles away from anything like that. So it was really nice for me to have access to essential oils, to be able to apply those, use a butterfly Band-Aid, and incentivize the body to help heal on its own. Okay, so I have been using essential oils for several decades now. Love them, in addition to, of course, modern medicine as well. They make a great addition to my host first aid kit. Now, one of the things that I've done, if you want to scan this QR code here, everything that I put in this first aid kit, I'm going to go ahead and show you here. My favorite first aid kit items are in that QR code. Okay, so this QR code will literally take you to purchase these items that I feel are really important to have on the boat. Okay, ear pain, right? A huge one you get at Lake Powell. The On Guard is incredible for sanitizing things. Lavender for sunburns, peppermint for sunburns. Someone's got a tummy ache, Digestion. Purify is really great for skin irritations, meaning I would typically say like the Lake Powell itch. Okay, Melaleuca or tea tree and Purify. And then here are some other things that you might want to consider putting in your first aid kit. Band-Aid, scissors, gauze. Those of you who are good with the needle, maybe even a suture kit. Okay, these are some of the things that we've encountered when we're out there on that lake. And I'm sure many of you have your own stories too. I have a whole list in my Amazon shopping cart of things that I have in my host first aid kit, including chewable laxatives, right? Okay, because that's a reality with Lake Powell, my friends. And we have a lot of people who eat like garbage and then their tummies hurt because they get constipated, right? Okay, so I've been so excited to be able to teach this, and I recognize that everyone has a different experience, but there's one thing that unites us, and it's the stories. And for just a moment, I am going to just, stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to share with you one of the stories that we tell to our kids. And these are stories of faith that happen. And I truly feel that the angels in this world get to bid for Lake Powell, right? And there's no other way to explain it, because all of us have heard those stories, whether it's been personally or from someone else, of those experiences that happen at Lake Powell, right? And this is a story. I was really young and we were coming back in, you know, we had our houseboat. It was the Kingfisher 2. It has since sunk, by the way. And I'm sure it's in a graveyard somewhere, right? But we were coming back in, and so the small boat was off maybe at the marina or fooling around, and my dad was on there with a lot of the young little kids and a few scattered adults. And it was a hot day like it normally is, and as we were getting close to the marina, he said, okay, and he stopped the engines, everyone jump off, right? Let's do a water break, let's do a swim break. And you probably know where this is going, especially if you're reading ahead. You know, sometimes the older kids wear their life jackets, sometimes they don't because they're good swimmers, and you're just doing a cycle to the back of the boat and getting back on. And in a moment's notice, and I'm sure this happened to you before, winds can come up in an instant, even if there's not a cloud in the sky. And that's exactly what happened. Winds came out of nowhere. And the boat began to move one way and the swimmers in the water the other. And within moments, swells, right, were up and going. And one of my cousins grabbed a life jacket. He's a really good swimmer. And he jumped out to my dad and 2 of my sisters, right? My dad was out there, the captain of the boat. You know, this is where the angels come in. And I was so young in this story that I reached out to my cousin, who the story is around. And I asked him he's now, of course, has his own houseboat and is creating memories with his own kids. And he said, I've told this story so many times to my children. And I'll read it in his words. The only experience I had driving the Kingfisher was when I'd taken over for a few minutes, maybe driving in the channel here and there, and had literally never started it or put it in gear or knew how to drive it. And of course, I'd always watched your dad maneuver it and start it, etc. But, you know, just as a young kid, you don't even think that you might have to know these things. And I remember having to make the decision that it was me. It was Rob. He was the only one left who could possibly start that boat and pick them up. And I remember being really scared that I'd run someone over. I had a knowledge of how the wind would blow boats. So I started it and I maneuvered that huge steering wheel over to pick them up, and must have overshot them with the wind. Okay, so can you imagine being in the water and seeing this boat and finally seeing someone start it, right? And they went on the wrong side and again, blew like a sail, because those big boats, they'll blow like a sail. And the second time he says it must have been divine intervention, right? Have I heard this story so many times? As I pulled the boat around, the wind blew the boat exactly to where the people were. I remember pulling Ellie and your dad in from the front of the boat, and your dad was exhausted because he'd been trying to keep the children up. Like he wouldn't have lasted another 5 more minutes. And I remember distinctly my mom reaching down into the water and not just pulling him up, right? Have you ever seen this happen? Flinging him onto the boat, right? From the front of the boat. Wow, right? And then recognizing that could have been really bad. So I have told my version of that story multiple times about being watched over and divine intervention and prayer. And that if God wants something done, it doesn't really matter your age or your skill, he'll direct you. I often tell my kids that we are merely tools to be put into God's hands. And like an electric screwdriver, our job is just to keep it charged. So when you want to use it, that it functions, at least. This is just one of the stories that I've heard as a child. I don't know why, but I feel like I'm going to share this with you. Woo! My brother passed away last year, mountain biking with his son. He was 52 years old. He would take his kids to Lake Powell. And Sunday, his kids are coming with us. This is a tradition that can't be explained. And I think the tears are here as I see people despite the ecological happenings of Lake Powell, right? And even to the point where they're saying it should be drained. And my heart wants to break because the stories that have bonded my family, and I'm in 40s now, have happened in Lake Powell. And I can't wait for you to create your stories. And my challenge to you is to document those stories. Now I'm going to close our class for tonight, but I'm going to do a separate recording for how I from my expense sheet, just because I don't want to keep you any longer, and you'll have access to that as well. And thank you guys for allowing me to share my heart and my thoughts of an amazing place where I get to continue to take my kids and have those experiences. Woo! Did not